I watched this debate out of curiosity, but there were some interesting moments. So it may be worth watching and it may be worth me talking about now. When Dr. White is asking questions, a lot of the questions were nothing questions. A lot of the questions were not important. The entire cross examination on his part felt like a nothing burger, to borrow a phrase from Jeremiah. I like the way Dr. Ferris thinks, and during his closing statement, he brought that out. He said, a 4 point Calvinist and a 5 point Calvinist could have answered those questions the same way. The intent was to try to poison the well, make it seem like if you just had a clip of White asking the question and Ferris or Chapa answering it, it would sound like, oh, their theology is man-centered. It's based on this, or that, and not the sovereignty and predestination of God. I don't agree with Dr. Ferris, and I don't agree with Chapa on all points, but as far as Ferris's critique of the way that the Calvinists, like White, assert their position and try to make it seem like they're proving their position and weakening their opponent's position, I think that is spot on, and I think that deserves attention. I got really excited when in cross-examination the Calvinists were asked about 2 Peter chapter 2, verse 2. I know what Dr. White's answer would be because I had seen him in a video refer people to an article on his website about answering that question from a Calvinist perspective. It didn't seem like they were prepared for the response, or they may have just not had time to try to deal with the answer that Dr. White gave. I wish that would have been pressed a little bit more. And the moderator from the beginning said, when you are cross-examining, you have the right to cut people off and change the subject or change the question. So Dr. White, at one point, as he's being questioned, he answered no. Ferris started to ask a different question. He's like, I need to explain this, because he didn't want the soundbite to be him answering no to the question. And he just asserted himself and answered it. So kudos to him for pulling that off. And there's no good answer to that, because if Ferris had cut him off and said, no, you can't answer, then that would have made him seem like the bad guy if you take the sound clip. So again, sometimes in a debate, you're not really in a good position to go one way or the other. Either way will be misrepresented. And I'll try to say something positive. I didn't really want to talk about Jeremiah. I know we have a history, but the moment when someone threw out a joke question and Dr. White put his hands on Jeremiah's shoulders and says, this is the future of apologetics. I'm not a Calvinist, but I know what that meant to him, and I was kind of happy on his behalf in that moment, regardless of what I think of Calvinist soteriology and this, that, and the other. That's how I felt at the moment. I'm not going to lie.